If you don't know who I am, my name's Dave Sharp. I have a dual function this evening. I'm actually on the board for A-Design, who are sponsoring tonight's event, so that's how I end up doing this particular bit, but I'm also involved with RM Star, the company that produces all the technologies. So I'll introduce my co-collaborators. This is Deborah from RM Star. I met Deborah about 5 years ago when they were in the early stages of working on this, and we've been working on this ever since. This is Mal, who's a collaborator at RM Star. Mal's much more of a techie and a content person.
We can lay them out on the Z-axis towards you. And the other thing we can obviously bring in is models. So this is just our logo, and Mal is interacting with it in front of you, spinning it round, moving it about in space. So this is a 3D scan, so we've shown you models, you can very simply bring them in that way, but you can also scan objects. So this is a very small Buddha's head that we can scale up, and it becomes a different object that you can kind of interrogate and move about in a more interesting way. We can also go into wireframe and points. We can also up the lighting state, so if you up the lighting a bit, you start to see how many more points there are actually in that object, and it's dealing with it very well. The hardware we're using isn't particularly sophisticated tower, and it deals with this amount of information with no problem at all. You can choose at which point you have wireframe or points or textures. So if you wanted to reveal the model in certain layers, that's possible as well. You don't have to start with the texture.
One of the other collaborators with RM Star on a content basis is is it molecular biologist?
Yeah,
she's a molecular biologist by background, and she's learned the necessary modelling skills that she wanted to be able to produce things that relate to what she does. So we've got, she's called Moira Campbell. She produced this, but she produced some fantastic models of germs and viruses and how they look kind of graphically, which we're going to show you in a little second. But some of the stuff she's produced in terms of what she does as a molecular biologist is absolutely amazing. This is my favourite bit because this always, to me, always gives the greatest sense and feeling of depth. We see two particular reactions to people from people when they see this stuff. Some people find it quite hypnotic, so it's just something that they stare at and they continue to stare at it, and it'll entertain them for quite some time just watching the same thing. And then we get people who have a slightly more physical reaction, so you can see their heads rolling around, or they take a step back, or whatever. They're actually affected by the movement of what they're seeing. So
children react really well, I think, as well. They usually run up and try and catch it, or just get right up as close as they can. This is another piece that actually sits on layers. So the way we're dealing with it is very much like a PowerPoint in a way. It's a series of slides, and at certain points, each slide we can add layers to. So it's another way to control at what point the performance builds and what point it breaks down lows, I guess.
The point there about performance is quite a good one, because, as I said at the beginning, we use a human to fly this to change the experience and to change the tempo, or to change the intensity of what's going on. If you think about what VJs do in nightclubs and stuff, it's pretty much the same. And people generally find it very interesting, to actually physically look at something that you would never normally see.
The other thing we can do is we can up the value of the pixel. So we can start to change the mood very quickly.
Well, we can fly through it, and it gives, as far as the imagination as far as I'm concerned.
Can you put the flat shaded version back on, Mal, please? I've just realised we are showing you a lot of stuff in kind of wireframe and in the kind of raw data formats, but you know, the next kind of evolution of what we're doing right now is to make things much more vivid and solid and kind of give them weight and stuff like that. So